All right, so here we go. Convert to a polar equation. This is the super simple problem that we did. We talked about this on the other test yesterday. 3x minus y equals 7. How do we change that to polar?
3r cosine.
Very good. 3r cosine theta.
Minus 1r sine theta equals 7.
That's it exactly. So what did Olivia do? She took out x and put in what it equals, r cosine theta. She took out y and put in what it equals, r sine theta. And she's done. Done. That problem is finished. Jordan?
Yep.
We're not missing that one, are we?
No.
Now, the next one is a little bit tougher. So, who remembers from yesterday or look back at yesterday's test? How did we do this yesterday?
You do the r and x and the y thingies. You change it to
We do the r, y, and x thingies. So we got to change cosine using the x, y, and r thingies. What is the cosine?
X over R.
Thank you. Cosine is x over r. Kids up here, didn't you say x equals r cosine theta? So doesn't cosine theta have to be x over r? It's all tied together. It's all the same thing.
And then you multiply the r.
Multiply the r.
So r squared equals 2x.
We're always, when you do this replacement with the x, y, and r thingy, it's always going to be a fraction. And you're always going to get rid of the fraction. Now, this is kind of a special situation here. What do I do at this point? This happened yesterday.
Yesterday we got x squared cosine.
Because if you think about the picture that you always draw, doesn't x squared plus y squared equal r squared?
Yeah.
So we use that substitution. So we'll take that out and replace it with x squared plus y squared. And that is your answer. So when you see an r squared, if you happen to see an r squared, you can always replace it with x squared plus y squared. Okay. Do they remember how to multiply?
Multiply the length and add the weight.
Exactly. These are called the r's. Length is a great word. That's the radius. It's the hypotenuse. So she says multiply these and then add these. So the answer is going to be 50 CIS 130. Is there anything wrong with that answer? Nope. That one's perfectly okay. When I say something could be wrong with it, what sometimes happens?
I think it's larger.
The angle is bigger than 360, but this one isn't. Yep, you're right. So that's it. All right, how do I do the division? Divide and subtract. So I'm going to get 2, 10 divided by 5, 2, CIS negative 10, too small, add 360, 2 CIS 350. And that is what you want to put in the final answer blank. Got a question, Jordan?
No, I'm just,
You're just pondering?
yeah, I'm just trying to figure this out. I don't understand. I need to come into it.
Okay. You don't understand this?
No, I understand this. I just, like, some parts of the chapter I don't understand.
Yeah. Gotta come in during flex, that's right. Okay. Speaking of flex, I got to hear that presentation yesterday,
Oh my god.
and the part I found, it was totally not what I thought it was gonna be. I thought it was gonna be somebody who had made bad choices and was coming in to share that. So that I found it so interesting and scary that those poor kids suffered because of someone else's poor choice. Did you think about that? Did that strike you? It was totally not what I thought it was gonna be. I thought it was really good. She's kind of a miracle, it sounds like. Okay. Alright, this is probably the hardest problem on the whole quest. Not because it's hard, but because it has a couple of steps to it. Draw a picture. So the first thing we want to do is find our R and theta. So over 2, down 2, I'm going to find my R and my theta. Now some of you, as you drew the picture, probably immediately put a 45 here. How would we know that there's a 45 there? Because these two numbers match. But if we didn't know that, could we second tangent and get that 45? Yeah. So one way or the other, you're going to get 45. Now, what's my radius?
2 root 2.
Square root of 8, which is 2 root 2. So our number is 2 root 2, CIS, watch it, 315. Very good. And we're going to raise that to the 6th power.
Oh, I know.
You okay with that? All right, so now, this is not the answer. It's a 2-step problem. That's step 1. Now, who remembers the rule? How do we raise this to the 6th power?
You raise it the first thing and multiply the second.
So the first thing, the R, you raise to the power. And the second part, the theta, you multiply times the power. Now, do you see this right here? See how there's 2 numbers there? What have I been telling you? When you have 2 numbers and you're doing something to them, gotta have parentheses. You gotta type this in exactly the way I wrote it. And the answer that you come up with should be 512. If you don't get 512, you're not putting it in the calculator correctly. And then that's going to be what, 1890?
Yeah, it'll be 9.
Yeah, that's way too big. What do I do? How do I make that smaller? Just keep subtracting 360s till I can't take out anymore. And 90 goes all the way down to 90. And you get to stop there because the directions say answer in polar form. And that is polar form. So that problem is done. Anybody have a question about what I did there? Anybody? This goes in parentheses. I just type parentheses 2, square root of 2, close the parentheses, and raise it to the 6th power.
Oh, you can subtract by 360 until it's smaller than 360. Yeah, it's just in what's the 360?
Okay, so now we're going to plot some points. And when you plot them, please make sure you label them for me. This one's a little problematic because your picture, your grid is labeled in degrees. So we need to change this to degrees.
180.
So 180 divided by 6 is 30, times 7 is 210. So we're gonna plot this on the 210 line. So here's the 210 line, it's marked for you. And you're going out to the 5th circle, so it's actually out here is point A. Everybody okay with that? Now the next one is problematic because it's got that crazy negative R. You can't plot a negative circle. This would mean get on the 3rd circle for sure, but I'm not going to plot it at 270. I'm going to plot it at the opposite of 270, and the opposite of 270 is 90. This negative tells you to plot the opposite point. So I'm going to plot it at 1, 2, 390. There is point B right there. A negative R plots you at the opposite point. Okay, one more. We got to sketch it. We're going to be as accurate as possible. So we're just going to type in this new equation. Everything should already be set up for us nicely. So we're typing in 2 minus 3 cosine. Now, let's get the size right. What shape is it, first of all? What shape did you get? A lima sign? Does that make sense to everybody? Look at the equation. Does it make sense it's a lima sign? Yeah, it's got a plus in it, doesn't it, or a minus? Got a minus in it? Alright, so now I'm going to draw it as best I can. It's got a little inside loop here. And it goes all the way out here. So here we go. Now you might say, Mrs. Ford, mine doesn't go all the way to the edge. No, it doesn't, because your edge is set at 8. Count the hash marks. Doesn't it go out 5? Doesn't the picture go out 5? So you have to go out 5 on your grid. Now, that shape is by no means perfect. Olivia?
So then whenever those ones we have these problems, we always just put in our calculator.
Oh yeah. And then just reproduce it as
So
best
if you get
can.
it wrong, like you're blind or something.
What?
So like if you get it wrong, you have to try to get it wrong. It's,
Yeah. This whole quest is that way. I mean, this is easy stuff. Okay? All right. Number 3. Here we go. Last time through. You ready for number 3? Any question about this before I erase that picture? All right, here we go. Number 1, convert to rectangular coordinates. What am I doing? X and Y, thank you. And how do I find X and Y? X equals R cosine, and Y equals R sine. And then we go to our calculator. Like Olivia said, you have to really try hard to miss these.
these calculators tell you they're about to die, they lie to you. They last a good couple of days.
gonna die, so just be prepared. All right, are there any more on this page that are gonna be done like that? Number 4? Isn't number 4 gonna be the exact situation? What's x gonna equal in number 4? X will equal 3 cosine 127, and y will be 3 sine 127. Now, be careful though. I got my x and my y values. Those look okay to everybody?
An I.
I gotta put an I in there, and the I is gonna go with which one? The y. So my answer is gonna be negative 1.81 plus 2.40 I. No comma in that one, it's a plus. X plus yi. We started with RCIS theta, that's what we started with, so we have to end with x plus yi. Okay, now what about number 2? Draw a picture. Because in problem number 2, we have to find r and theta. So in problem number 2, we have to find r and theta. So we'll draw a little picture. Right?
Yeah. I'll find R.
That shouldn't be too much of a problem. What's my r?
Root 13.
Root 13. Everybody okay? Hypotenuse. Pythagorean theorem, root 13. I'm going to do second tangent. 3/2. Please make sure you're putting y over x, opposite over adjacent. We're going to get an angle for that. 56.31. And then the tricky part is get the angle right. So the actual angle will add 180. So 236.31, is that what I heard you say? Is that okay? Christina, you're with us here? Alright, what are we doing here? It's problem 3. Doing the same thing. Doing exactly the same thing, that's right. So negative 4 plus 7. So that R value will be what? 49 and 16. Root 65. Is that okay? Peyton, how do I find my angle? Second tangent. Second tangent. To find my angle, I second tangent. So second tangent. So it's 60.26.
Subtract that.
And that will be subtracted from 180. Very good, Caitlin. So it's 119.74. And you write it with CIS. Beautiful. So root 65, CIS 119.74. There's your answer. How did Olivia know that was going to be a CIS answer?
Because it had an I in it.
There was an I in the problem. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful.
Oh, when is this class? Miss 4?
we're gonna talk about that when we're done reviewing here. Because you guys are so good, you're always on top of things, you got some options, we'll talk about it. Okay,
Oh.
so number 5, we're gonna convert to a polar equation. Yeah, this is the one that, so help me if you miss it, you need to be smacked. Because this one has no work at all, right? We go straight to the answer blank and we write 3r cosine theta plus 4r sine theta equals 6. Does everybody see what I did there?
Yes.
Easy. You know x equals r cosine theta. We did it, we needed that in some of our problems. So you just plug that in, done. Now, what about this one? This one takes a little more effort. So what do we do first?
Y over R.
Sine is y over r.
And then
R squared equals 4y.
And then r squared equals x squared plus y squared.
X squared plus y squared, perfect. Remember that r squared equals x squared plus y squared. That's the Pythagorean theorem. Done. That's all there is to it. You feel like you got that one?
Yep.
All right, number 7. Okay, this is our multiplication and division. Here we go. Kaufman. Remember how to multiply?
Yes, 5 times 6,
30.
100 plus 23.
Beautiful. And we're done. Right?
Because it's not bigger.
Maya, do you remember how to do the division?
You divide the 5 and 6.
So that's just gonna be 5/6, right? 5 divided by 6, 5/6. And
You divide the, or you subtract the 23 and the 100, you get negative 7%.
perfect.
Add 360.
Yep, that's a negative angle. We don't want something that's too little. So we'll add 360 to it. And we come up with what? 283. Remember, you're going to have a calculator for everything on this. So you don't need to worry about doing any arithmetic on your own. You okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay, now we got the big problem. Now this is not hard, but remember there are 2 steps to it.
Graph it.
Don't stop after the first step. The first step is to graph it. So you're going to graph it. You're going to find R. So how do we find R?
2.
Well, you might look at these numbers and just know it's 2, but you can do the Pythagorean theorem. Root 3 squared plus 1 squared equals what? Well, 3 plus 1 is 4, right? So that's going to be 2. If you're sharp, you're going to look at those numbers and say, whoa, I know how big that angle is. What is that?
30.
That's a 30. If you're not so sharp, what are you going to type in your calculator? Second tangent 1 over root 3, and it's going to say 30. So the actual theta will be 180 plus 30. 180 plus 30. So we have 2 CIS 210. That's step 1. your number into CIS form. Now, do the 6th power part of it. Okay? So Magnus, how does that work? How do we do the 6th power part? Can someone help Magnus? Chloe? You take this number, Magnus, right here, to the power. So 2 to the 6th. And then we multiply the angle times the power. So the radius goes to the power, the angle gets times by the power. So that's 64 and 1260,
Too big.
which is too big.
180.
So you subtracted some 360s and got it down to 180, and that's the answer. So that problem on the test, where it's got a power, something to a power, first step, get it into the CIS form, and then second step, actually do the power. Try to stay awake, we're almost done. Alright, so here we go. We're going to plot the point 3 comma 5 pi over 6. Well, we just did this a couple minutes ago. We got to change that radian measure into degrees to put it on our graph paper. So pi is 180, divided by 6 is 30, 150. So we're going to plot this at 3 comma 150. So you're going to find your 150 line, and you're going to count out 1, 2, 3 circles, and that's going to be point A. By the way, we're not going to get freaked out if we have an angle that's not labeled. If that's 150 and that's 180, then isn't this 165? They're 15 degrees apart. So just keep that in mind. All right, the other one we need to plot is negative 545. Remember, what's that negative tell me? Yeah, the opposite point. So I need to go to the opposite side of the circle. So here's 45, right here's 45. So the opposite of it would be here, 225. All right, so on your graph paper, we got 210 labeled and we got 240 labeled. 225 is right in the middle. So there is point B. Now we're going to graph and reproduce it onto our paper.
It's a rose.
Yeah, you've already figured out it's rows.
Really? And it's 4.
You should be able to tell from your picture, or certainly from the equation, that the leaves are 4 units long. So you got one straight down, and then you've got one out this way, and one out this way. Now those, I'm not going to get all hung up on the exact positioning of them. Okay, don't put them all in the same quadrant, obviously. But I am going to be hung up about the length of them. Those need to be 4 units long, so they need to come out to your 4th circle on your graph paper.
Miss Ford,
Okay?
what did you give me?
Wait,
Huh?
Miss Ford,
You
I-
gave us 2
I did give you paper because if you did the homework, some of it was graphic.
Oh, okay.
And so you
I
can
haven't
use
done that
that
yet.
for graphic. Olivia?
How did we get it into the theta form when it said theta min? Because both are still in the y min.
Yeah, it has to be in polar mode. Gotta go to mode and put it in polar. Okay? Now, we just went through almost 2 whole practice quests. Is there any problem? I mean, today we've gone through almost 2. Is there any problem? Actually, we did. We went through all of them. We went through 2 completely today.
Oh yeah.
Are there any problems?
The one where there's like convert to the rectangular equation.
Convert to a rectangular equation. All right, so let me put one up here to practice. Convert to a rectangular equation. Okay, so directions say convert to a rectangular equation. All right, just stop and think. Look at the problem and convert to a rectangular equation. What is the first thing we take care of?
The secant.
The secant. Now, secant is reciprocal of, it's reciprocal of
X over
cosine.
R.
Cosine is x over r, so r over x. Now, kids, I am the teacher, and I have to go through that thought process myself. I don't expect you, I don't expect to be able to say to you what secant and have you know immediately, but I expect you to be able to figure it out. Secant is reciprocal of cosine. Cosine, you do have memorized, is x over r. So if secant is the reciprocal of cosine, and cosine is x over r, then secant must be r over x. Okay, now what's the next thing we do? Get rid of the fraction. So rx equals 4r. Whoa, wait a minute, this looks different.
Whoa, it's not squared.
Well, it's better than that, because what do we have on both sides?
An R.
And I can cancel them out. So what's this equal? X equals 4. That's it, we're done.
Oh, so you don't gotta do the x squared stuff?
Nope, because we don't have an r
X
squared.
squared plus y squared is only equals to y squared?
If you have an r squared, you do that.
So then if you ever got one with a y, it'd just be y equals 4?
That would happen if it were a cosecant. All right, what else can you think of?